You're watching NappyCast by Jason Nappy Weather. I'm tracking two heat waves and the threat for severe weather again today. Let's take a look at the country right now and show you big time heat heading up to the plains, upper Midwest. Okay, all of this is going to be extreme heat, especially up towards Minnesota, heading up north. Okay, and then over here, you're starting to see a little bit of the heat, mostly in Massachusetts, Connecticut. Rhode Island, but really this is going to be from a cold front that's going to come through eventually, cool things down, but also spark severe weather in the forecast too for the East Coast today. Now, heading up into Maine, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes here, so stay tuned in Maine. I will get into it in more detail, but first, I want to show you the broader picture of what is going to be happening here on the surface analysis here. So you've got a lot of sunshine for a good chunk right now of the mid-Atlantic. That's where severe weather is going to be worst, but it also will push up into Maine. So I'm breaking it all down in the forecast coming up in just a few seconds here. But really the trigger mechanism for this severe weather is this cold front right here that is going to march east today. So after 6 o'clock western Maine, before that, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, where the severe weather will be popping up. The threat for a few tornadoes, which will be brief, but really it's a big windstorm. So let me show you now the severe weather outlook to show you in more detail where the greatest threat is. So it's a level 2 out of 5 where you see the yellow, okay? So it's basically from all the way up in the county in Maine down here towards North Carolina, okay? And a level 3 out of 5 threat for the mid-Atlantic, especially down from DC, Philadelphia, New York City, okay, where you have a level 3 threat, which means the threat for severe weather is highest in those areas. It doesn't mean it can't happen outside those areas. And I want to show you specifically the tornado threat for the East Coast. So if you are on the East Coast, there is a threat. Now, it is a low threat, the lowest possible, a 2%, but it is still a threat. So you can't call it zero for a brief tornado. And no tornadoes are weak. Anytime you get a tornado around 75 miles an hour for wind, obviously you're talking about big time wind in a small area, but it can do a lot of damage here. So you got to be very careful anytime you get that spin in the atmosphere. But this is mostly a wind event. That's why you see the brighter colors here in a bigger area, because this is mostly a wind event. The atmosphere is going to produce a bunch of wind with this front. Once it pushes east, interacts with that very moist, unstable air out ahead of the cold front. So that is going to be mostly a wind event. There's also a threat for hail. That is around 5%. So low end for that. And obviously there's also some hail way up in the high plains, upper Midwest too. A threat there around this big ridge that's going to be building. And I'll talk about that heat wave here in a second. Let's talk about in more detail what is happening here as I bring up the maps. You're seeing here a front that's going to be coming through with this trough, okay? And with this trough in the atmosphere, this is where you're going to have that trigger mechanism. Here's your trough coming through. It's the trigger mechanism that is going to spark that severe weather outbreak in along the East Coast, especially Ohio Valley, basically New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, okay? This is going to spark that today as it comes through that trough. But then watch on the back side of that trough how this big ridge, this big heat dome is going to pop up here in the southeast in the Ohio Valley. So this big ridge, around this ridge, is going to pump in the hottest and most humid air we've seen in a long time, especially in New England. And the reason why you've got these troughs digging in the west here. So this high has to amplify the more that this trough digs out west. So you're going to have a very large heat dome, and it's going to sit for quite some time along the East Coast. Now, eventually by Thursday, this ridge, which is going to break down a little bit, so you'll get some relief in New England, but there still will be plenty of heat and humidity for a while. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Really, I expect Monday, Tuesday to be the biggest days as far as that ridging goes. That's when the ridge is going to be its strongest. Now, with that heat, you're going to have record highs. So today is a little taste, a little preview of record heat. You see a few circles here on some of these numbers over in Western Mass and even just outside of Boston there, run for the mid 90s, down towards New Jersey, okay, where you've got those mid 90s popping up, Philadelphia. So this is a little bit of a taste, a little preview of that heat and humidity. But let me put things out now a couple of days for the record highs. So we cool down tomorrow. Saturday's not that bad, 80s and 90s. And then Sunday, Monday, look at all of the numbers here with circles on them. So that is a forecast for record heat. Low, mid, upper 90s on Monday. And then watch here. This is the biggest day. This is Tuesday. Here's your jackpot. Look at all of this heat from Maine, 94 in Bangor, all the way down Ohio Valley, where you are making a run for mid upper 90s and even a run for 100 degrees. That is a forecast record high temperature forecast on Tuesday. Tuesday is the big day where the temperatures are going to spike and be the highest, although Monday will not be a slouch. But as far as things pushing east, it really is going to be on Tuesday. Now let's focus on Maine in more detail. The showers and thunderstorms, which for most of Maine, most of today, is a non-factor. However, when I reset this map and show you the forecast, I'll take you through it hour by hour. This is Thursday afternoon. We start up in the county, the Boundary Plateau, okay, in the Allagash, the North Woods, north to Katahdin region. But by 7, 8 o'clock, or after 6 o'clock, the focus is going to shift to the western Maine mountains, okay? And then we'll get rounds of thunderstorms, which have the opportunity, even in Maine, to produce a few brief tornadoes, hail, wind, and even flash flooding. There will be torrential downpours with these storms coming through. And then on Friday, you're going to have that trough swing through with more showers, even a few thunderstorms away from the coast. I do not expect the coast to see much from this today or tomorrow. This is mostly a mountain situation first. You see that this afternoon, and then it's going to be somewhat inland, the western Maine mountains, the western foothills, the central highlands, the Katahdin region tonight, and then there it is. Western Maine gets in on it again as we get into 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then Friday, we're going to see middle of the day, right through Greenville, Lincoln, Millinocket, Caribou, Holton. We do it all over again on your Friday. So this is going to be a couple waves coming through the atmosphere where showers and thunderstorms are going to be popping up as they're moving west to east. Let's pull up right now the forecast for Maine in more detail with the clouds around. A lot of clouds around today. There will be some breaks in the fog and the clouds. Then the severe weather breaks out north and west. Okay, this is not going to be a major outbreak because we don't have a lot of sunshine statewide. And then tomorrow, there will be wind really picking up with that trough swinging through, and there will be some scattered power outages tomorrow, especially western Maine first. And then the heat gets dangerous next week. Remember, we don't typically see mid and upper 90s, which we have a good shot at, especially on Tuesday of next week. But that is going to happen in Maine next week, okay? And so you need to be prepared for this, especially elderly, especially people that are very young, not used to that. Your bodies haven't really gotten used to that kind of stuff in a while here. So it's going to be difficult for things outdoors for a couple of days next week. I can show you the humidity tracker here, which today it's up high. On Thursday in the mountains, we get those thunderstorms, showers, wind, even thunderstorms on Friday, mountains. And then Saturday we clear out, and it's very nice and comfortable. Humidity goes down, but then Sunday it surges back up and make a run for the 90s in the mountains next week. And Tuesday there'll be a few pop-up thunderstorms in the forecast. Then we're really going to cool down for the end of June. Inland, it is going to be PM thunderstorms. I showed you that after 6 o'clock western Maine, okay? And then well up into the Katahdin region north will be before that. Clouds, wind, showers, a pop-up thunderstorm Friday, far away from the coast, and then 80s for the weekend with the humidity surging, and then there's a 95 I've got up there on Tuesday. Add the humidity, it's going to feel like 100 degrees for a time on Tuesday. There's going to be a bunch of sunshine on Tuesday too. It's really going to be hot outdoors. So take precaution now for next week. Now today at the coastline, sun and clouds, humid, but I don't expect a lot of this rain to make it to the coastline at all today. At the coast, you're pretty much all clear, although can't rule out a few showers of thunderstorms making it down southern coast or mid coast. Down east, you're mostly fine. And then we make a run for the 80s for a couple of days, low humidity Friday, Saturday, and then we get the surge next week. And even the coastline is going to get to the low 90s, and that's without the humidity next week, although there's not going to be a lot of rain breaking out next week. But then we really cool down. Upper 60s for highs to end June for the southern coast, the mid coast, and I expect down east to be even cooler than that over towards Eastport. Thank you for watching. NappyCast.com for the latest.